Iran woke up this Wednesday, June 10, 2026, with its world collapsing after testing the United States Armed Forces and receiving a military response that changed the tone of the crisis. The anti-Trump media panicked. While Iran was under pressure, Democratic commentators tried to sell the image of Trump as lost and incapable. They used posts, criticism from supporters, the trade deficit, even the UFC at the White House to put together a panic package against the president. But the real scene is different. Trump got tougher in the Middle East. His slim base demanded a firm response. Democrats rushed to the 20th, 25th Amendment, and the Iranian regime found out that provoking the United States comes at a cost. What really happened? Why did Iran go for confrontation? How did the left try to turn a show of strength into a political crisis? I'm going to tell you all about that. If you like this kind of straightforward, no-nonsense content, consider subscribing because we have videos like this every day. In the last video, I reported on brutal attacks by the United States against Iranian terrorist forces. The American government maintained that the action was a defensive and pressure response. The focus was not to occupy territory or to start an endless campaign. The focus was to target radar capability, air defense, and points used to threaten American forces and allies in the region. The difference is important. Old politics likes to sell any military response as an adventure, but the absence of a response also has a price. When Iran perceives weakness, it advances. When it perceives a cost, it recalculates. It was this change that made Tehran wake up, trying to show strength and at the same time measure every step so as not to provoke an even greater reaction. The Iranian reaction came with drones and missiles against facilities linked to the United States in Jordan, Kuwait, and Bahrain. But the response lacked the historic political impact. Interceptions reduced the impact. There was no major American defeat announced, and Tehran's narrative quickly lost strength. For a regime that thrives on propaganda, this matters. Iran needed to appear as the winner. It ended up appearing as a real threat, but also vulnerable in the face of coordinated defense, intelligence, regional alliances, and American military pressure. The MAGA base responded by demanding a firm response. Some of Trump's supporters don't want to see the United States paying the price for Iranian provocations without a clear response. It means pressure for consistency. The voter who supports Trump wants a strong border, a strong economy, and America's enemies to be dealt with without naivety. When Iran shoots down American equipment, when it threatens bases, and when it tries to use a truce as a shield, this base demands a response. It was in this environment that the Democrats brought up the 25th Amendment again and tried to put Trump's health at the center of the news. Ted Lieu and other names from the Democratic Party once again used images where Trump appears with his eyes closed or looking tired at official events. The strategy is well known. When Trump puts pressure on Iran, when he sets the economic agenda, or when he gets Washington to chase after results, his opponents change the subject to his supposed incapacity. The White House rejects this narrative. Allies like Marco Rubio defend the president's work pace, while the opposition insists on turning appearance into a political weapon. The offensive against Trump also included social media posts. While the military crisis was unfolding, critics exploited videos, messages, and posts to try to paint a picture of chaos. But this method ignores what's essential. Trump has always used direct communication to speak to his base, break away from traditional media, and set the tone for the debate. The left knows this. What bothers them is that Trump speaks without asking permission from the same system that spent years filtering public debate. The UFC at the White House has become another symbol of this culture war. The Trump administration defended in court the holding of an event on the south lawn of the White House, with weigh-ins at the Lincoln Memorial and the participation of figures connected to the sport. Residents questioned the use of public spaces and requested a court injunction. The opposition called it a grotesque spectacle. For Trump's base, the reaction from the elite reveals something bigger. When left-leaning artists occupy symbolic spaces, they call it culture. When a popular sport enters the center of power, they call it a threat. The discomfort isn't just about the octagon. Recent history shows why this dispute is so intense. For years, American governments tried to negotiate with Iran while the regime maintained influence over armed groups, nuclear enrichment, and pressure in the Gulf. Barack Obama bet on an agreement. Joe Biden tried to return to a diplomatic path. Trump came back with maximum pressure, sanctions, and a clear threat. The difference in approach has always divided Washington. For Trump's base, too many concessions feed regimes that see dialogue as weakness. Other nations are watching the crisis closely. Israel calculates every move because it sees Iran as a direct threat. Gulf nations fear that drones and missiles could hit energy facilities, ports, and bases. Europe fears oil prices, inflation, and a new wave of instability. China and Russia are watching, seeking strategic advantage. When Washington hesitates, adversaries test. When Washington responds, allies breathe easier and enemies recalculate. Iran tried to show it could set the region on fire. The strong response showed that the cost of that gamble can come quickly. Wednesday's news coverage exposes a dispute bigger than any attack, post, or event at the White House. Iran was pressured militarily. Democrats tried to create a competence crisis around Trump. The media brought together different topics to sell the idea of collapse. The thin base demanded a tough response. And Washington went back to discussing the economy, security, public spending, social security, culture, and global influence all at the same time. The Iranian regime may still try a new response, but now it knows that every provocation will be seen in Washington as a direct test against the United States. Diplomacy is still possible, but not as theater to buy time. The message left for Tehran is simple in practice. Threatening American bases, playing with the Strait of Hormuz, and betting on political weakness inside the United States no longer guarantees any advantage. I'm Milson Alves, an internationalist, and my purpose is to keep you well informed with the truth every day. The news links are in the video description. Leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and at the end, check out the comments so you can be even more engaged with the Milson Alves community.